The massive pod dropship that is the Pursuit, piloted by Prophet, descends, careening towards the plates of earth and rock that sit atop the filmy volcanic skin of Dorix IV. Things rattle, sensors whir, and monotone female digital voices calm you and give constant updates as each of you sit or stand, as is your preference, inside your mechs. As Prophet descends, the ground looms closer until eventually the sensors and beeps crescendo as almighty thud as contact is made, and the jolt ripples up even through the suspension of your mech and you in its cockpit. After the jolting recedes, there's a crackle on your comms. The green light flicks on. Drop complete, gentlemen. Release engaged. And you can feel your mechs drop as you fall down or drop down, landing prone. Landing in the bay before great doors open before you. Steam as the atmospheres twine in here makes like a temporary maelstrom between the comforts of like the cargo suspension and that of Dorix IV. Beyond it's dark and glib and ashy, and there's occasional neon lights, points and markers across the otherwise Spartan terrain. And there's a few meandering magmic streams that cut through the rock and cause like steam and vapor to be emitted around you. You can't hear any of that, though you do hear your interfaces declaring systems engaged, and you feel between like the joystick and the hand hoists, the pedals at your feet, and the custom seat ergomatic about your form react to your movements, and the mech around you too stride free of its suspension and constraints. As predetermined by Viking Zero, there's a strict order to deployment and commencement to nav point beta. So who would be the first to drop and step out on Dorix IV?
I think that Anvil would be the first. He's kind of the bulkier and would provide cover for the others. They've been through missions before, and they know that when danger hits, if they need to, they can take shelter behind him. So he'll activate up and move out, glancing around, just in case there's an immediate IED explosion or incoming fire.
Can I get a system roll from you, sir?
Of course. It's a 12. My system is a 15. Success.
Systems declare that there's no unidentified forms in its scan range. It picks up the topography from like pre-uploaded maps, and everything seems consistent with the intel from Prophet, though systems do detect occasional tremors. You don't feel them in your cockpit, though if you were to be in like a suit out on the surface, you would notice like occasional like tremors or vibrations within the Earth. You would have been briefed on this before, so being aware of it, you'd give the all clear back to Viking Zero and Prophet.
Hey, we can move out. Looks okay to me.
So who strides out into the steam and ash next?
It's probably Cataphract 9, I think that Viking is the last one, since he's the boss. And so there'd be like a yeehaw as he, and he'll like move pretty swiftly in like a sort of arc in the other direction to where Anvil went. Sort of whole top half of his mech on a swivel, trying to keep his eyes open.
You can see out beyond through the plas sheen of your cockpit, beyond where the snaking magmic stream meanders. There's a neon symmetry of lights heralding the settlement beyond, consistent with nav beta, as like briefed by Prophet, and backlit by the huge spotlights on the side of the dropship Pursuit. cast like a long shadow of your mech out across the land, and as you like yeehaw and out onto the planet, a few like massive like iguana like quadrupedal iguanodons like scurry for cover, or like big like clods of rock like sent forth into a nearby lava to and pop.
Yeah, he's like cranking the music incredibly loudly in his cockpit, and he's got like a Carso stick in his mouth. So the whole place is like loud and smoky. Like how he sees anything is a mystery. But this is how he does things, and it seems to have worked for him for most of his life. And so like you would get this like crackly response, Viking. All good here.
Yeah, Viking receiving the reports of the other two would make his way out of the cockpit, kind of moving in forward between the two directions that the other two went, kind of form this triangle outwards from where the dropship is, and kind of taking the scene in with his own eyes, or at least with his mech's own eyes. Would comment back to the other two. Roger, clear all here too. Let's get this thing done. Get moving.
Drop complete, gentlemen. I'll see you at Nav Epsilon. Good luck. And then there's a out from Prophet, and the dropship spotlights begin to cast obscure angles as it ascends slowly and bulkily at first. There's a great thrust up through the canopy of ash beyond. And after all the initial scans transfer with each other and the area cleared, it's up to you.
So then are we, I'm assuming we're already fairly aware of kind of where everything, at least where we're expecting things to be on the mission so far?
Yeah, you can bring up your displays, like topographic maps of the area with like preordained trails between the different points as outlaid in the mission brief.
Hey, Viking, what's next?
I'm just trying to
How come we're blowing up
things here.
Gave us
How
a
come we're
bunch of stuff.
blowing up this this Xiralium when we could be taking it home?
Is Xiralium like a dense metal? Is it radioactive?
Oh, I don't know enough about science to even like give a science fiction answer. But you know from previous reports that it's used in dirty bombs and terrorist attacks on Dorix II, and it's outlawed by Neo Dominion for non-military or iron clearance personnel to possess.
For sure, then. Okay.
It's like a black market crystal.
So we've been tasked with blowing it up, right? Like that's or like all the deposits or whatever to blow them up. But immediately when I read that, my mind was like, we could just take it with us, though.
Just don't keep it too close to your pants.
Well, they did promise us salvage rights. Now, interpretations up for grabs on what exactly that means sometimes, but
Now you're talking, Captain.
Came away with a little bit extra, you know. It's our share, right?
Hey, chain of command, I'm down for whatever.
Well, so you would know that given that mandate by the Dominion, that since you are technically iron clearance personnel, because of like sharing this mission brief, that you would technically be able to possess it while in the like contracted with the ND, like with the Neo Dominion. But were you to work outside of their scope, then technically it would be illegal to possess Xiralium.
So technically we could take it and while still under contract, sell it before we meet them for our money and be okay legally. Technically.
Yeah, as long as you don't possess it when you're not working for them, yeah, there wouldn't be a problem.
It's worth considering, Captain.
Yeah. I'll have to do a quick flip on it, make sure things keep moving fast, but that's what we do around here anyways. Moving fast is how we work. If we can save it, we'll save it. But mission priorities #1. If it comes down to us or that stuff, and we know what to pick.
Hoorah!
So there's been no interruptions from scanners as you guys have made your way slowly from nav point Alpha towards Beta, the seismoelectric plant called Chthona. The coordinates displayed up on your overlay. There's nothing of concern along the way as far as your comms are concerned, though you do see the occasional signs of abandoned mines, tunnels, or shafts driven into the side of the black rock about the magmic streams here, and a few hover vehicles abandoned or in various states of decay along the path in towards Chthona. And as you'd seen on your scanner array when you first stepped out Cataphract, you see the neon lights of that settlement and plant through the gloomy clouds beyond, heralding that destination. And eventually, as you plod on through the trajectory, through the path that gets plotted before you, the outer buildings or walls or ridge of that settlement would rise up from the contouring ground, and previously unmanned walls now swarm with Neo-Dominion peacekeeper forces, while the seismoelectric plant is reclaimed under military law. And there's a ping upon each of your sensors when you can finally see this through the cockpit. You're being heralded from that settlement, and a voice will come through the comms. And an unidentified 3 Mecha south of location, and it gives this big long code. Identify yourselves.
And so these are people that we're more or less working with, right? So it would be expected for us to be communicating with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're aware of this place.
But these aren't the bad guys, though, right? These aren't the people we're here to get.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that I'm not giving away our names and position to the enemy here.
Yeah, it seems as from what your scanners show of Neo-Dominion forces here, that it would be the Neo-Dominion comms reaching out to you. But you could confirm that by a quick systems check by yourself or one of your teammates.
I got a 6, so success.
Yeah, so maybe on a separate channel you can communicate that it looks like the expected frequency that the Neo-Dominion would hail either you or Prophet on through the course of Operation Boneyard.
Yeah, so I imagine at this point we're pretty used to how each person operates, so I imagine I just go straight to a Cataphract 9er, signal clear.
Looks like it's our boys. And as he says it, he puts out the smoke into this ashtray, which is not meant to be an ashtray, and he shoves it and presses a button, and it out the other side of the mech out into the atmosphere beyond to be quickly gobbled up by some of those iguanodons.
Yeah. So with that in mind, Viking Zero would come back in through the main comms back to them. We hear you. This is Commander Marin. Viking Zero coming in. Clearance code 289K2J. Permission to proceed.
Received. Thank you, Viking Zero. We've been expecting you. We'll watch your approach. Come on in. Keep your heads down.
And then back our main. Sorry, go.
I'm Commander Donnier. I've been placed in charge of the peacekeeping forces here. Things have been rough. We've got productivity back to 67% efficiency. There's still some dissidents within the populations here, though largely that, and you can hear an intermittent behind him through his comms. Intermittent displays of hostility, but largely peace is being restored here. Welcome, gentlemen. And you can see when he says welcome, as you step in through the walls thrown up, this looks like a a robot ghost town, and what few people like you can spot moving about the place, like driving in their various vehicles, like move away, giving even more of like a deserted and isolating feel as you like step in under like a gun turret through into the square-shaped settlement. You feel like an occasional tremor beneath you, even through like the mechs now. Though notice that none of the buildings seem to crack or fracture, or like no like destruction occurs at that. The destruction you do see seems to be self-inflicted. There's great big like murals or artwork spray painted or vandalized over Neo Dominion sigilary, and there's like abandoned like burning vehicles or houses that look like dead beehives, all gutted with like shell holes or like las burns up the side of them. And you see like occasional outposts, like plasteel defenses thrown up, and anti-mech teams manning them, watching the ghost city for any further signs of dissent. Your sensors do pick up light energy readings beyond, closer towards the northwest quadrant of the settlement. Though as you like step in, there's nothing to alarm either of you other than what you see.
Cataphract will let out like a low whistle and like look at the place. Makes me miss home.
Takes a lot to do that. What a
Makes
shit
me
show.
miss
Let's see if
blowing
we can get
things
this
up.
place back in line. Well, something tells me we won't be missing blowing stuff up too much more. 67% efficiency is not enough. Let's get it back to 100. If that means squashing a couple of insurgents, then we'll just let it trail off.
We move up to an intersection beyond, can see where like a mob has amassed, some 50 or so people by the look of it, and some standing on top of like HOV vehicles waving digital placards, like shouting out. You can't hear it, but it's like obvious dissent here. And there's two little like plasteel outposts of anti-mecha teams like broadcasting towards the mob in the city to like stay calm, return back to work, that all signs of hostility will be met with extreme prejudice, and just kind of trying to like enforce the crowd or disperse the crowd, I should say, by threatening force. And you can see beyond, it's like a single figure steps out like an ant to you from your readings up here, suspended in your cockpit. But he like runs forward and hurls this small projectile towards the ridged emplacement, the western emplacement, and it erupts in flame. Like a purple gas is emitted and quickly turns to red and then bright to flame. And a few like soldiers, even in their suits, rush, jumping out of it to like tumble down on fire that cannot be quenched, even as they're like sprayed by emergency packs of their companions. And there's all kind of like hubbub over the comms as this occurs, like, oh, we got a fire attack here, and just like people like referring information back and forth, the occasional like static whir in the comms where it's interrupted by black channels going, down with Neo Dominion pigs, down with the sky, and then like returning back to like military frequencies. Some of the flame licks up to the side of your mech, Anvil Rain, and like takes up at the foot, though the mech doesn't even read, like systems don't even read it. It's nothing to you. And he's like step with like a flaming boot further up towards the mob.
That's cute. Look at these guys with the little bombs.
All right, let's get this crowd in control. Do whatever you need to. Let's not start with force, but if we need to intimidate.
Way ahead, Captain, and like the huge chain gun on like one side of the mech is like whirring and screaming, and he'll like look around over the crowd. Then he'll just like boom this like sort of like alarm from his mech. It's like deafeningly loud.
Yeah, people even in their like suits or modified garb will like put their hands up, gloved over their ears, or run for cover. Half the mob at once seems to like fracture away from like the concentrated mass of it, spilling into like nearby like streets or buildings or vehicles. They're like a determined core seem unshaken by the oral display of intimidation.
Yeah, Anvil will move forward, and he's going to take these huge, exaggerated steps where he makes sure that no one's underneath, and then smashes down like right as they're moving out of the way, threatening to step on them, but secretly knowing that he never would.
A young woman, younger than the man who hurled the explosive onto the entrenchment near your foot, Anvil Rain, like step up even while the emplacement above her is on fire, and like further of those soldiers are like spouting out threats of violence. She pulls out another canister, and you might think, witnessing this, almost like a god watching us, that she's going to hurl another useless Molotov cocktail at you or in the direction of your companion, given his like oral threat. But instead, she like spray paints or begins this line of an X up the side of the Neo Dominion image imprinted onto the side of the emplacement.
We've got some fucking artists here.
Return to your homes. Return to your homes. Just like blaring from the mech.
She'll move across, finishing the first line to go and start the second to make an X of it. But before she can, one of the men above just like leans over and the third one blasts her through the head, down the body and out like lower back. She just drops like a string cut marionette, and the can like rolls into the street, and then all hell breaks loose, and you get a reading on each of your senses as a projectile is fired from a nearby seemingly abandoned building. And we'll roll mobility checks or systems, whatever's highest, and get initiative started.
Look like things are about to cook off. Viking, what are we doing?
Yeah, upon hearing the sensing the thing go off. Oh. They've got rockets. Engage. Anyone with a weapon, anyone who fires, take them down.
Lloyd, it looks like you or I are first. How do you want
to? Yeah, I'll go. I've got a melee weapon, so I'll just like begin chopping them in half. So he'll like there's like this sort of like bobble-headed skull on top of the lever. He like reaches up and like pulls it, and there's like massive blade like fires out of the arm of the mech, and he like swings it once or twice. It takes like 2 or 3 steps forward, and just going to like swing for the. If he can get to the mob, he's just going to swing into that and try and cut as many of them down as possible. That's a fail. It's one of the hard things. You rolled a 19, you're like, oh.
Yeah, so you bring the blade down into the mob. It like cuts through 3 people as it drives into the ground. Somehow the rest survive, either like diving for cover or whatnot. Maybe it punctures through the film of rock that this section of intersection is built on, and like down into the magma beneath. So you like pull the blade back up. It like spurts up some like heat and steam at the edge of the blade, and like drives a second strike wide. The mob still is like terrified of this. They're peons beneath your mech, and they begin to disperse at once after the initial murder.
Are there any clear targets from that building?
That'll be a systems check.
Let's do it. I also rolled a 19. Got mildly
Yeah, so you can
excited.
see on your scanner where the missile is coming from and where the missile team or RPG team is emplaced in a nearby building.
Okay. It doesn't seem like Anvil has the best grasp on where this threat is from. He's a little bit worried about collateral damage, not knowing the layout. So he's just going to activate his energy shield. So I'm going to roll my reactor. Got a 3, good. He's going to choose himself, and at any point until the start of the next turn, I can roll a d4 to reduce incoming damage. So just these like energy kind of like pulsars on his shoulder pads just starts whirring to like, and then there's a as like an energy field kind of just jettisons out and covers the immediate area.
Nice. So the mob begins to flee, though a few stand defiant even despite the brutal and violent display of force. And they will like hurl another projectile. Rather than the entrenchment, though, they'll throw it towards your foot, Cataphractinina. So you need to make a mobility check.
Yes, sir. It's a 16, and I think my mobility is 16. It is. Is that good or bad?
I think it's a fail. I feel
Probably.
like this has happened before. Let me just check.
Do you know offhand, Jeff? If I roll, like if I roll exactly my mobility, is that a fail or a success?
Fail.
Okay. Yep. So then I fail.
Yep. Yeah. So another one of those projectiles is hurled at your feet and erupts outside, encasing the lower leg in flame and causing like smoke to whirl up, enveloping the front of Cataphractinina. Though you'll only take 3 damage.
Roger.
Can I get you to make a systems check, please, Viking Zero?
Yes, sir. That is a 10 on the die, which is under my 13, so success.
So you can key in the coordinates given to you by Anvil Brain that show where the RPG emplacement is, and that this missile's been like fired from it, and it's herring towards U2 or in the midst of U2. Though like a second compulsory or secondary scan shows that it's the opposite end of the street that a blip is shown for you, and that a second missile is fired. And your most recent scan makes obsolete the one before that and shows it to like be false or failed or perhaps even corrupted. So as you see your companion like turn to face one way and like a shield going up over his body, faces like a projectile that will not come and like pivoting at your mech's pelvis. You can see from a building up the other side of the street, a missile arcs up into the midst of U2. It'll be at you that it's targeted, though, Viking Zero. So I need you to make a mobility check. But since you succeeded on your systems check against the hackers, you roll this with a bonus, which is a disadvantage, I think, because you want lower.
Yeah, so all right, with advantage that's a 6, which is under well under.
Yeah, so you move aside or like squat down, the missile like fires overhead into a nearby building and blows off the top corner of it, and blocks begin to like spill down. A few people like rush out onto the street below, like like small animals at your feet.
Yeah, immediately Viking Zero will send out the coordinates. He'll shout out through the comms. Correct course, Anvil Rain. RPG's over here, and I'll like ping whatever location. But then I'm going to hopefully wreck their shit anyway. So yeah, there's like this that'll like roar. As like the jets at the bottom of his mech's feet and legs will like roar to life. And I'll like take a couple, almost would be running steps if a mech can even be said to do such a thing, before it'll like launch and thrust So I have a module which I'm going to use, which is jump jets, which allows me to basically move to anywhere, even within like the second range band out. I don't remember exactly what it was. So basically, where I saw that ping from, I'm just gonna like literally land basically on top of them and then try to like smash in with my sword.
Yeah, you can. You have their coordinates from your resist to their hack, and you can jump jet down in front of this honeycombed and shell-struck building that the readout is coming from, and that you witness visually the missile fire out of. So you know the mandate of the mission is set out by Prophet that will not allow collateral damage inside of Chthona. It won't be tolerated by the Neo Dominion. So you're going to have to deftly pluck this wasp somehow. So if you want to do it with your sword, as you said, I'm going to say it'll be a mobility check with a disadvantage, which will mean you'll be rolling with 2 and taking the higher, to not skewer anything else other than the hackers and the RPG team inside the building. Or some other creative way that you might come up with to handle the delicate situation. Because if you think, as being commander of this mission and having run missions before, that just destroying this building would certainly incur a financial penalty, possibly even like a reaction from Neo Dominion employers.
That is definitely not what we want. Would it be so are these missiles, are they actually being like deployed from like a mechanical function, or are they literally like RPG rocket launcher missiles?
Imagine like an emplacement, a room-sized emplacement. So like the facet of like a street-facing apartment building. Like inside of that would be the RPG emplacement you imagine. They're like small vehicle size. Certainly not like something that's carried on someone's shoulders.
Because if it's possible to just like actually get to the RPG thing itself and disable it, I think that would probably be the goal, either by force to like, or maybe perhaps even if I can hack into it. I want to try to like take out the actual system out, so rather than having to kill like every single person in there and risk murdering civilians.
That'll be a system roll to hack the hackers in that case, because they coordinate themselves and the RPG emplacement.
Ooh, and that's a 9, which is
okay. So for that success, you can immediately begin to hack the hackers who had like got into Anvil Rain and given him false coordinates with the hope of turning him away from the true threat. Find their location and begin to upload your own virus to begin disabling them, severing their coordination with the RPG team. So I'm going to take out their effects until they can recover from that, and have the RPG acting alone without coordination for now. And then that will change with subsequent rolls down the track. But for now, you're able to hack the hackers, disable their influence over this encounter.
perfect.
So I just imagine like a bunch of hardcore communist punks with like nose rings and like shaved side of head and stuff, like at these computer consoles while they're like, "Oh no, they're hackers, man!" Like smashing the consoles and like, "We got to get out of here!" As everything begins to like fail, or is overridden by something nasty that you transfer to them. Then it's going to go back to the top Anvil Rain. So the fire from the missile clears, and you can like turn around to see the trail where it had come from, and then beyond up the other side of the street where there's a flaming entrenchment, your companion cutting down into the mob, dispersing most of it and killing a few in a strike that was largely ineffective.
Yeah, Anvil's got his kinetic absorbers up for a second, and I'm sorry, his energy shield, and it fades as he kind of realizes his foolish move, turning back the right direction. Ah, shit. I don't know what to do here, boss. I can't be handling these little punks. I need a big target, and I need it now. And he's like trying to unshoulder and unpack this massive weapon. It's in like 4 pieces, and he begins ramming a barrel into a chamber, twisting it, locking it in place, unhinging like a huge magazine rack, and then throwing in these shells. He's like an artillery piece, a massive armored Hulk. And he looks around and he's going to search for another target. He's looking for a vehicle, a building that looks like it does need to go down. but he's still worried about the collateral damage because he doesn't mess with small targets. That's not his. That's not his role here. So I'm gonna roll systems to just do another scan if possible, looking for incoming targets, perhaps on the peripheries. That one's a 5, so success.
Systems are all clear as far as like the perimeter of Chthona, like a scan of that is concerned. There's no inbound enemies or other otherwise unaccounted for hostiles after confirmation of the communication from your companions. That was a lot of alliteration. But you do notice that there's a signal that's trying to be hidden or shadowed that's being emitted from somewhere near the midst of where I forgot the name, sorry. Cataphract Niner is like cut down into the intersection, like pulled his sword up out of the earthen construct there. Someone either within that crowd or in a building nearby is emitting a frequency in communications. For your success, you can key into it and close your other comms off to like listen, and it would be overheard like snippets of a worried alarm and warning from like a young man's voice that's shaking. Nomad Alpha, Nomad Alpha. Oh, we got ND employees here. They're when you can hear like an explosion outside from where this massive sword just cuts through in the middle of the street and people go screaming. They've got mechs here. They're killing us. They're probably onto you. You got to get the hell out of there. And then there's like this huge noise of like Lloyd's mech walking past it, and everything just goes from there. And then after that recedes. Coordinates are, and he like gives out this big long string of numbers and numerals, and then we'll begin like brand or like manufacturer descriptions of Cataphract Niner, and then it begins to go to Viking 0 by the time you've heard the snippets of this previously stealthed transmission.
Yeah, so Anvil's gonna forward on that message, kind of chopping it to its most important pieces, sending it to Cataphract and Viking. Hey, taste out this. Oh boy, they got friends. Cataphract, can you cut these down? And
we can trace that signal. We need to get a lock on it. Otherwise, we need to get it cut.
Yeah, he's hoping that Cataphract can maybe block their radio. He's been capable of such before, and he's just going to move in to kind of back Cataphract up while he does this. Moving in, and he'll task his energy shield onto Viking this time.
Okay, I'll say that for the success on that roll you just did, Cameron, that you can certainly trace the transmission where the transmission's being output to, though not block it.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So he'll try and get the coordinates squared away, and then hope that Viking can handle the other part.
Okay. So mechanically my sensor jammer doesn't it hides us, but I don't think it would stop the message going out. But what will stop the message going out is shoving a sword into the building they're in, I think.
Aha!
So that's what I'm going to try and do. I think that between you hearing the message and we could triangulate which building they were in from where I was walking in.
Certainly.
Was that, yeah?
Yeah, he's on your left side. He just read out your serial number on your mech.
Yeah.
You have the location, though, to deftly cut it as you're trying. It will, same as I outlaid to Jeff, it'll be at disadvantage for you to do the mobility check to skewer the apartment that has this Terran informer broadcasting out without cutting down innocence or other parts of the building.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it because I feel like it's pretty essential. So he's and then I guess when he's this punk is reading at the serial number, the mech just stops and then turns to face the building, and then is doing slight adjustments until the sword is poised and and then he's going to swing with disadvantage. So okay, that's success. I got a 12, but my mobility is 15.
Nice. A glaive the size of a semi-trailer just like busts in to this like block of apartment, shatters in at the side of it, destroying the room. That the building's structure is still sound. These things are built to resist seismothermic, if that's even a word, seismogeothermic shakings or tremors and such. So with that, definitely you're able to destroy the room and its contents and inhabitants, but not bring the rest of the building down to rubble. It's like a surgical stab and then withdraw, and there's a wedge in the side of this building.
Yeah, and there's just like red stains all over the end of the glaive, and he like pulls it out and like flicks some of the bodies off of it with like this like the blade will rotate a few times and they'll just go flying in different directions. So that's my first action, and then I'm going to pull out a pistol and fire it in the direction of the other room where the RPG is. If I can see it. I don't know if there's a building in the way, but if that's possible, I'll try and do that.
There is like stuff in the way. By the way I reckoned it in my mind, Jeff like jumped over to where that building was. So you do have line of sight, but it's not a clear line of sight.
Okay, so it would be a disadvantage as well, would it?
Yep, but it's a disadvantage anyway because of a deft shot being needed to not blow a hole through the building.
Yes, okay. So you cut out there from me because my internet shot.
Sorry. A penalty die, is required because of the cover, for want of a better word, and because of the delicate or like deft need in the situation.
Okay, and what's the penalty die?
Means you roll twice and take the higher. And if you roll a critical fail, you destroy the building. Oh, sorry, not destroy the building. The damage gets done to the building, which is HP 10, I believe.
So, like, I wouldn't do it, me personally, but, like, Virgil's a maniac, and he loves destruction, so he would definitely do it. Plus, he'll look really cool if he's able to kill both things in one turn, and that's really what he's all about. So he, like, shoves the glaive into one room and, like, flicks away some of the bodies and then, like points his finger, his, like, mech finger in the direction of the room, and, like, it, like, opens up into, like, what is ostensibly a cannon, and then poof, fires. So, okay, that's nice. That's what I'm not going to get that, I guess. 13 is the highest. So I rolled a 1 on the first, which would have been fucking amazing. But 13 with the penalty die, under 16, which is my mobility.
Yeah, a shell hits the side of this building and blows out one of the apartments nearby to your mech, Zero. And like dust, smoke just like billows out of it. And there's a short eruption of flame. As it begins to recede, you see like a man with half his side blown away, like covered in smoke and gore, just like take a few drunkard steps out of the building onto the rubble and then collapse down with the other bits of detritus, even while ash and like small bits of rubble still settle and fall about. At this point, all of your systems would read like initial threats neutralized, and there'd still be like chatter over the comms from the ND entrenchments around here as they battle to get the fire in control and see off what remnants of the mob weren't scattered by the violence of Zaven.
There'd be a comm that would go out immediately as Viking Zero was like next to the building and he was worried about like dealing the wrong damage, and then like Cataphract just fires from across the field, just but somehow he was just like, "Are you insane?" But then you would hear like the tinge before the comm closes off of a laugh that would signal a job well done and not harsh criticism.
The response is just like you can just hear like from in the cockpit, and he's like, "Yeehaw!"
Well, regardless, threats neutralized. Let's do what we can to help contain the rest of the violence, and then move on. If we can get a word on, I forgot the name. That name that we heard that guy say, would that be something that was already on our radar? Like Alpha something?
Nomad Alpha it was. It was a communicator Nomad Alpha. Now, you don't know of Nomad Alpha. According to the information that you got about Lasse Vandor and his call sign and others associated with him or that you would expect in this area, there's nothing synonymous with that if you run that name through like the databases pertaining to the mission brief. It must be like a new call sign, though the coordinates of the transmission's receiver was at Nion E42, last known location of Lasse Vandor and the Terran terrorists who've been harvesting the Xiralium at the abandoned boneyard there. to fund dirty bombs against the Neo Dominion, one of the primary targets of this mission.
Once we make sure things are contained here, that Nomad Alpha, haven't heard that call sign before. See if we can dig anything up, get anything from any archives. But if not, we'll need to be wary. They may have more people backed up than we expected. Things go bad. Prepare to engage.
Aye, aye. And regrettably, it looks like Anvil starts kind of taking the weapon that he had prepped, this huge cannon. He looks around, and he slings it back on his back. Hey, all right, all right. And he starts looking around the area, trying to take in the damage and make sure there's no other threats.
Yeah, after
I don't think we'd use too much time. I don't think we'd use too much time on it, but I would like to kind of help to contain some of the perhaps extraneous things if there's still a little bit of trouble containing any of the damage or like extra fighting. I'd want to make sure that we could like do what we could to lend ourselves to that, but I wouldn't want to spare any more time than we absolutely had to.
Sure. Yeah, so after maybe like a quick... Sorry, you go.
Sorry, just the danger is that they take off or like they leave the planet, I think, right? Because that's what he was saying. It's like, you got to get out of here. So we got to move, I think.
Yeah, Commander Dornier will like come over the comms. Thanks for your assistance with that, Viking Zero. It all seems under control here for now. You're clear to proceed through the East District and out and onto your objective. We've requisitioned one of our reconnaissance, Sergeant Otana. She'll provide escort for you along the way, should you need it.
Roger that. We'll be proceeding outwards immediately. We heard comms that they might be planning to leave. Somebody tipped them off. We managed to hack into the comm and trace it. If there's any air defense, I'd keep an eye out. We need to stop a ship if it tries to take off. We'll try to get them before they can leave.
Log this frequency, and if you can get confirmation or tracking on that, let us know and we'll put it through to ND Command.
Roger.
Good luck.
All right, boys. Let's go.
Let's head off out of the East District and out... Oh, sorry, you go, Cameron?
I was just going to say, all right, let's go.
Yeah, so you can move out at haste, with haste out of the Eastern District of Chthona and over like a lava river, across like a plasteel bridge and out into like the rocky wilderness beyond. Strange like reptilian things will like scurry out of your path, and occasionally like vents will like spew up like ash and strange a strange myriad of like colors from like the gases and strange reactions with the atmosphere as you pass. Otana will come over the comms, introduce herself and come into view as like a small hovercraft, like weaving and whipping between the rocks, up and over. I'm Otana. I've been placed as detached as a detachment to escort you on to your objective, Viking Zero. Things should be pretty clear. I'll send you what readouts my squad has taken from Nion E42. Should receive them soon. Can you like the little up on your overlay?
Roger. I'll make sure to forward it on to the rest of my crew, and with a swipe and a couple button presses, I'll make sure that whatever gets sent to the other two as well. We'll need to move quick. We have reason to believe that they might be trying to escape some of the terrorist insurgent leaders. If they are, we need to cut them off. I'm assuming you know how to get us there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Roger, that'll be the old bypass. I can take you by that. Keep your heads down, though. There's been insurgent activity beyond the eastern quadrant of Chthona now for the last few span. I'll upload what I know of the, what would the word be, like the waypoints or markers on like the Neo Dominion like route to this place. It would have once been like a functioning and well used direct route from Chthona to Nion E42. But through the war, when this place was abandoned and then like reoccupied, it's since fallen into like mostly disuse. But she like zooms up ahead over like rocks and rubble and abandoned outposts or hubs and onto this highway. Essentially, you can see it every so often, like where it's not covered over by like ashfall or rock or burnt away by magma. That was once like a standard issue Neo Dominion road, heading off in like a general easterly directions, but for a few like impassable parts of terrain along the way. Command told me you guys were on Dorix II, she says, as you guys are like inbound to Nav Point Gamma.
Yep, we were.
Bad business that. I hope you gave him some for us.
What around here isn't bad business these days.
Yeah, they're taken care of.
Good. I found the parameters of my mission allowed me to continue on. We're coming up close now to where the intersection leads on to Nav Point Gamma, Nion E42. It's an old scrapyard, as I'm sure you all know. They used to have, she says, and then it goes, and you see before you Anvil Rain is just like a blip of explosion as she like disappears beyond, and this cloud of dust, ash, and fire is sent up from her previous position. It's just a...
Y'all think that was volcanic or something else?
Break formation! And I'm going to begin moving like away from the other two so that we can't be like targeted by one big gun.
Nice, like a reactionary formation.
Yeah.
You like spread out a little.
Yeah, immediately I'd be like shouting out in the come in, Commander, are you there? Come in. And then assuming there's nothing, would immediately kind of break as well, spreading out into a kind of a triangle from the others, trying to lock in on what might have caused that, if it was like a geothermal or terroristic.
That would require a scan, so systems check, please.
Ooh, it's gonna be close. My systems are 13. Perfect. That's 12. Just enough.
There's no vent, crack, or like lava pond within the vicinity of like her last location. And doing like digital scans, there's no like frequencies you'd associate with ND tech mines, like landmines. You saw no visible incoming like shot or projectile, which could explain it. And given your experience, this would be synonymous to tech that you would have experienced decades ago in another frontier conflict between Neo-Dominion outpost forces and separate, like pre-separatist forces. In another life, it seems. They're like dirty mines. They're like analog mines, old tech, unstable, and like sometimes ineffective. But their one advantage is that systems checks do not detect them.
Shit. They got this place wired with mines. Old school ones.
Virgil will just stop immediately and like power down all the like ancillary systems as to not like attract any of the mines that might be like proximity based or like heat based.
I ain't no senators.
Yeah.
That goes in.
Watch your step. These things won't come up on a readout. They'll blow you to smithereens, though.
So as it appears on the topography on your overlay, it looks like this bypass here, which heads off in like Roman straightness towards Nion E42, is mined for this foreseeable pass. Southeast of here, there's like myriad kind of tributaries of a larger magmic river that flows off in that direction with lots of unstable and filmy ground. North of that, there is like a higher ridge, the tips of which are concealed by like the ash canopy above from the volcanic atmosphere. So from like the parameters of your mission brief, you could see several paths towards your objective, each with their own issues in navigating. But the one you find yourself in, the central and swiftest route, is as you've detected like analog untraceable mines beneath like the filmy ash and ever-changing surface before you.
What do you think, boys?
Hey, you ever seen those those movies with the blind men? Maybe we walk around with the big stick.
I was thinking we could just shoot everything in front of us, and if they blow, they blow.
That's a waste of ammo.
Ammo
babies are
aside,
precious.
it's a lot of attention. The longer that we spend here trying to sweep, and the more noise we cause, the more signals we put out. Could be a beacon.
The ridge then?
Yeah, I don't want to skip and hop over some lava. That'd be terrible.
Yeah, we can't all afford jump jets.
Yeah. But still, I think it might be. This route's only the fastest if we know it's safe, and we know it's not. The speed we'd have to take in order to make it through here, there's no way. Ridge is dangerous, but even without jump jets, can make it work.
So you can key in a new path, which makes like a trapezoidal alterations up, taking a more northerly route up past like a ridge and into a vale, which circumvents around the bypass that you now know to be mine laden. Can head off with renewed speed in that direction. Beyond here, like the ridges on either side cause like an eerie bookmarked feeling to the corridor that yawns before you, and a thick ash cloud conceals the occasional like purple and white flash of storms, violent maelstroms up above beyond in the higher strata of Dorix IV. Down here you can see where like rock slides and like magmic vents that have opened up and then been like closed or like sealed, like rocky scabs have gouged the landscape before you. And even with like the bright spotlights on your mecha head to like see the path before you, much of it is obscured, and like your automatic systems and suspension have to compensate for a unsteady ground hidden beneath like the fine silt of ash, slowing your progress somewhat, though still progress it is another like kind of near inaudible gets heard from up above in the canopy. You're about 3/4 of the way through this ridge, veering now to a more southeasterly trajectory to come at the northwest approach of Nion E42, when a shard of plasma bursts through the canopy beyond, causing like a hail of dusts and small rocks about its source, and arcs towards the midst of you three. Which one of your mechs would be the tallest, given its chassis?
That'd probably be Anvil. I think he's
Okay.
the hulkingest.
Yeah,
so.
the Titan mech, yeah, is the big...
So Anvil, you'll need to make a mobility check with a penalty die, and you'll all need to make systems checks with penalty die.
Guys, this is sounding like it's going to be a fun time. That's a fail on my mobility. Success on systems.
So a success on those systems dies reveals the digital camo stealth of a mech sniper up on the northern ridge at what is now your like left rear. You guys who succeeded know that location, even though visual scans showed nothing but like an ash cloud and some like tumbling rocks. The blast, though, that strikes you does 6 damage, cutting through into the corner of your chassis and leaving like a smoking hole, causing your like systems to whir, and the humanoid representation of your mech on your overlay showing severe damage to your like hip and left thigh.
Ugh. He goes kind of like stumbling back, grit and stone kind of flying from under his feet. before like the shock absorbers can kind of kick in and stabilize this mech. Ah, shit.
Sniper! Coordinates coming. And I'll send, I guess, just to cataphract where that came from. Given
Yeah, maybe Cataphract scanner just like whirs or like shows like static when he tries to scan, but then given the upload from you, a new blip like occurs off to your rear left, and you can like pivot around to the source to see where Envil Ray, now Cataphract, has been like cut through with this long range laser. The coordinates are much further away than like conventional mecha arms. So whatever shot at you watched you pass through that valley before you had your back turned to it and then opened fire.
You cut me deep, guys. You cut me real deep. Let's make him pay.
So mechanically speaking, what range band are we talking at for this guy?
It is far.
Perfect. So immediately Viking is going to like turn his mech around towards where the sniper bolt had come from. I'll get him knocked down. And there's going to be another roar of jets. I'm going to use my first action to move with jump jets involved. Roll on my reactor die, which is a 4, which it will not degrade it. Which allows me to move up to a far distance in a single move. So immediately there's just kind of this blast off as the mech like soars, being launched rocket propelled through the air, just landing with a crash, literally right on top of this person.
Rad. I imagine you ascend up through the dark canopy and into like darkness, and then like moments later like descend down through swirling ash, like almost like it's a mist, to like stomp down into the near the side or top of this ridge, sending some rockfall sliding down below your feet as they like affix to the ground. And it's almost like a digital flicker before you as your proximity renders the camo shields useless, and a mech not too dissimilar from your like the form of your own or your companions appears before you, though different to note that what serves as its pauldron or like lower parts and like the head facet that houses the cockpit all seem like patchwork or like quilt worked together from various like other parts and models, giving it like a patchwork knight kind of appearance this close up. And in its hand is like a military grade Neo Dominion sniper rifle, and affixed to the end of it this protrusion shorter than like a standard bayonet, but it flickers into life automatically at your proximity, shooting out like a lasered like a plas bayonet from like this holster at the end of the scope's barrel, the rifle's barrel.
Got eyes on him. I'm engaged. Mech, patchwork, sniper, bayonet. I'll like read out just all the equipment and things that he sees. And I'll use my second action as this is the sword detaches from the mech body. I'm just going to try to bring it down and smash him. Which that is a 6 under my power, which is very well under. For 7 damage. As I just bring this blade down, smashing into this sniper. Just trying to sever at whatever I can.
Yeah, that's like nearly destroys the thing in one strike. So I imagine like the blade comes down and goes in through what serves as the left shoulder and down towards the navel, and like the top left of the mech like shears wide and like bends with like the wrenching of armor and metal, screeching horrendously to like fall half lopsided into the rock and ash beneath, sending up like another fuming cloud of it. And the sniper rifle is held in its other hand, now useless for firing because one of its arms and side is completely just shorn away by the blade strike.
That'll be me.
Damn, those jump jets.
Anvil, as your like sensors read out before you, they change as soon, like a second after your commander lands next to the threat, and readouts show immediately like severe damage to like the top left quadrant of the unidentified hostile, and like severe system damage and integrity loss, and all kind of scientific readouts about how fucked this guy is, but still technically a threat.
So Kelvin, the pilot of Anvil Rain, he kind of like shakes his head a little. His mech is still reading out the damage from that blast that he took. He goes, "All right, it's fucking time. Here we go." And over the back of his mech, he pulls out this huge cannon that he had put together earlier, and just cocks back this massive bolt. And you just hear, and there's this echo through the valley. And he reaches up, hitting some dials. And he locks in on the signature of Viking, actually, because in their tussle, he doesn't think he can get a clear shot on this mystery sniper. So he locks in on Viking's position, and then just the cannon fires, and this shell goes flying through the air. 120 millimeter cannon just erupts and thunders through the valley. And he reads out over the comms, "Viking, you might want to move in 3, 2, 1. And the shell is incoming on the target. And I got a 10 out of 16. Plus 2 for a heavy weapon, so 12 out of 16. So he's hopefully timing it just perfectly so that the shell will come in on that exact spot right as Viking dodges out of the way.
Yeah, the thing, like the sniper, half ruined, maimed mechanically anyway, turns about on the side trying to gain advantage as if to like impale Viking Zero with the las bayonet. And then you hear this readout Zero and can like dive aside as that side of the cliff just gets turned to a black cloud of ash and spewing rock and bits of twisted metal as the mecha sniper just takes a shell in the side, puts a hole into it, burying it about 3/4 of the way into what's left of its chest cavity, and then explodes as it's meant to, sending the top half just to shower above and the legs to fall apart. And not for the second time within the last 2 hours, you've had to turn your mech and shield yourself from incoming fire from companions. But to your benefit.
Sorry about that, boss. You know how Dragon is. And he like kind of reaches up, and his mech doesn't have a face, but he sort of just mimics kissing the cannon as like just steam and smoke are kind of just billowing out of the barrel.
Yeah, he'll shake his head invisibly from within the mech, letting out a laugh of frustration and relief at the enemy being neutralized. You guys gotta watch where you're pointing those things.
Hey, we got a coin of praise for that maneuver. That was great.
Cataphract's mech is like like stomping across the valley, hoping to get there sometime this week. He's like, "It's fucking dead," and like skids to a halt.
Yeah, Viking will put the sword back into the mech body and like walk halfway to meet you, and just kind of like, even with the mech, will bring up the mech arms to shrug its shoulders. Gotta be faster than that if you want a piece of the action.
Hey, did anything survive?
Can I get a systems check from you all, please? Lloyd, you can open 2 tabs so that you have one doing a systems check and the other like getting recent Neo Dominion prices on secondhand jump jets.
Yeah, man. You know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, Commander, I'm just checking that out now. Smashes on keyboard.
I like to think that they were mine once, but then I lost them to in a poker game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I got a success on the systems.
Yeah, so there's nothing to salvage of the sniper mech. It was brutalized. There's like just scrap left of it, though discarded, like thrown like 30 or 40 feet away nearby. There is the... Where's my little document here? Find 2 items from the system readout. The laser bayonet, which counts as a light melee weapon, one-handed, can be recovered, as can the weapon quality sniper. Like, so the vital components of its weapon, you can recover those 2 things, though unfortunately salvage nothing of the mech chassis.
Looks like there's enough to take some of the laser bayonet, and then like he'll kind of zero in on the gun. Gun itself is jammed, but Might be able to tweak some of your own stuff with it. Not really my gig, but I'll kind of look to the others to see who wants it.
Hey, isn't it your birthday, Anvil?
Hey, you know me. I don't even look at things when I shoot at them. I just use coordinates. But hey, it could work, right? Maybe I don't have to surprise boss so often.
Now you can look down the scope at your targeting computer.
Yeah, really a gift for me, to be honest.
All right, yeah.
So I guess we throw down like a marker light or something, and then like start to take whatever we can get and salvage it. I don't know if we like never really considered how this works. Like, are our mechs going to pick up and carry the bits?
I don't see why not. Considering like it's two relatively small components, I think it would differ as far as salvage rights go. For instance, for a mech chassis, would require profit coming back to recover it once you guys had been in depot and stuff. But as far as like tiny things like this, within reason, I'm happy for you guys to pluck them up as you go.
Sort of,
Yeah, I imagine that we'd have like simple cargo compartments or something on the mech for like random little bits.
yeah, like cargo compartments for smaller things, but maybe even like netting or big, just essentially like electromagnets that you can activate to like affix something to on your back. That's what I was kind of imagining how he carries around his artillery piece.
Yep, like those things that chefs have where you can throw the knife at the wall and it sticks.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get Anvil rigged up with the sniper.
Cool. Since it was
And then I
like
guess-
recovered from the explosion, I'm going to require I think it will be systems check for the engineer of the group to recover it in such a way for it to be usable from now on and affixed to your equipment.
Oh, right now? Okay.
Yeah, I imagine there's like giant arc tool or something on the wrist of like engineer chassis.
Yeah, I actually think that he probably just opens his cockpit, jumps out onto like the forearm of his mech, runs down, and then like he kind of does like the come on, a little closer, like having them reach over and hold the scope right over, and then he runs in with a welder and all right, we're good. And then he runs back up into the cockpit and starts calibrating the angle trajectories.
I assume that was a success. You can do so, like recover these components from the fallen foeman and modify your own mech before like getting back inside and powering up to move on.
Yeah, and I'll snap the laser bayonet, whatever the function that actually produces it, just onto my back for the time being. I'm not going to worry about whether it's functional quite yet.
Okay.
But at least want to make sure we have a hand on it.
Maybe you could use that to skewer one of them lizards and roast it over the lava.
It's good eating them lizards.
Hoping to come away with this mission with a little bit more than a glorified shish kebab, but worst case scenario.
Explosive kinetics make me real hungry, okay?
Well, you're going to have to work on a hungry stomach then for a little bit. And as much as I'd like to sit around here and chat about food, we still got business.
There's actually like the crinkle of an MRE being opened in the cockpit over the comms. Oh, yep. It stashes it back away.
Virgil like puts out another cigar and like thunk, out through the like expulsion tube that is not meant for that purpose, and then immediately lights another one and follows.
So we see this dark-skinned, almost like stone-textured tortoise lumbering as quickly as a tortoise can towards a nearby magma stream as a quadrupedal iguanodon careens after it, rushing to gobble the thing up. Its teeth scratch off the back of its shell a few times, and its claws, like teacher's nails down a chalkboard, like grate down the shell of the tortoise. Although it plops into the nearby lava stream and disappears, its tail last, and the iguanodon goes back up bipedal for a moment and gives a whine of, oh, this escaped quarry before it feels the vibrations of your approaching mechs, turns back, and then leaps in fear, scurrying off into the rocks beyond as you guys leave a small triangular ash trail behind you, in addition to Zavon's, as you following the new trajectory down towards nav point Gamma. And as visuals come into form, you can see this almost labyrinth of scrapyard metal and hulks of various vehicles and like deposited like useless hubs or buildings here, piled up around what was once like a standard issue Neo Dominion scrapyard, but has obviously been in disuse for some years here, and more than a fine layer of ash has settled down over about the place, giving every part of its contour and structure a black, silty hat. You can see the faces of old like Mecha looking out from like this wall of like scrap and trash, and see obvious signs of like coming and going of like vehicles and like mid to low sized Mecha systems making passage through this area. And after a cursory systems scan, can determine activity like movement, life forms, energy readings beyond inside the scrapyard. And I think coming into view of Nav Point Alpha, the Boneyard itself is a good time to take a bio-smoko break.
Sounds good.
Aye.
So everyone roll your bio dice and then take one Carco stick off your inventory, and we'll be back shortly.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!
there's something about like the Mecha hack feel, and particularly like the Merc feel, that makes me think of like just like hard rock and like cigars and like it's just like this really over the top sort of, but like it doesn't feel comical, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it manages to find that nice kind of middle point between that like crazy, absurd pulpness, but not like to the point where it's like, okay, come on, like let's let's not get too insane here. And every time I play this system, I'm surprised with like how much there is with so little. It's like really impressive what they did with it.
For sure. And it's like really, I love the combat. It feels really tactical always.
Yeah, like I've even when I like played like the normal black hack, which like it's based off of like, you know, there's stuff that you can do, but it's still a very like OSR simple of just like you can just do this, the very singular things that you can do. And this has like just enough like fiddly things to do, like make interesting decisions with, that it kind of breaks away from what a lot of those systems feel like to me.
Yep. I think it's like different weapon choices and weapon qualities, and then like the different chassis all feel really different. And like I've played a Titan mech that's very different to the one that Cameron's playing. Just feels good. Like it's really customizable.
So it looks like Anvil Rain is back, so we can kick on if you lads are ready.
Rock.
Cool. So you see before you, underneath this canopy of ash, this scrapyard, this boneyard of old discarded vehicles. Regulation standard, but gone like decrepit now, and a husk that's used by these Terran insurgents to conduct their violent resistance to the Dominion. Your system's scans show that distant from your location, there is an interplanetary ship firing up, powering up, consistent with one readying to like go off planet, or to like another further away distance from the planet, like within it, I mean. And there will also be readings of a mech consistent with size of your own Anvil Rain, moving back and forth between like a large building at the rear of the scrapyard and to where this ship is powering up for liftoff. There's also life form readings from not only in that building nearby to this large unidentified mech. There are life forms coming from within like the junkyard labyrinth between your position and like what would have been like the command or headquarters of Nion E42.
Yeah, once we get a reading of, excuse me, of that ship, I'm going to try, if it's possible, to, even if I can't get like a specific lock on the exact coordinates yet, to like send the at least general location back to primary base to see if they can send that off to the primary Dominion crew to see if we can stop an air launch if it comes to it. But whether or not that they can, I'll send it off either way. But then look to the others. We have to get that ship. We can't let it get off the ground. Much as I'd like to rely on big boys to take care of it from outside, I'm not sure if they'll be here fast enough to do so. We got to worry about that mech too.
Hey, you know me. I could send a couple shells its way. I've got the big ones here too. And he reaches down and pats this container. It's like this massive. It would fit like a small car probably. Ammo container, and within it, you know that he carries these like high volatile explosive rounds for a special occasion. But maybe this is it.
I'm sure they're all like customized, like painted on and stuff like that. They all have like, you know, little things written on them, or like
yeah,
scary faces and whatnot.
He's hand painted because the shells are probably like the size of like a sofa chair or something almost, but like he's hand painted like the shark tooth design and stuff like that all over him, and from Anvil with Love.
Yep.
Can I get a systems check from each of you guys?
I was a nat 1.
Pass for me.
Then you would all know you're being tracked, or your locations are being tracked by several points beyond in the scrapyard, and that most of those like readings on your own scanners are obviously like doing the same back to you and aware of your presence and location. With that success, I guess. Cracker would come over your comms and an incoming transmission would want to be received.
You know, I love these big mechs, but god damn it, they can't hide.
Oh yeah. And Catafact will like press a few buttons, like the most high-tech part of his inside command center, most of which is like actual levers and like things that have like, it's old and he likes it that way, sort of analog. Like this music is playing from like a salvage tape player from Terra that was. But he presses all these buttons and this like little drone will like fly up, and it's a jammer that we can use to hide two of us.
Nice. Hey, I might just camp out if we're close enough here and make a lot of noise. Maybe the two of you can get in close, do a little flanking maneuver.
If we can get up on that mech, the one patrolling, between the two of us, taking it by surprise, probably take it out.
Will they engage?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Will I engage?
If we can get a clear shot, yes. They already know we're here. Not much use. Even if they can't find us now, they know we're in the area. Battle's going to be coming one way or another. If we can get the drop on them before they can on us, I say that's best.
Roger.
Well, I mean, it seems like they might know we're here, right?
They won't be able to track us with scanning computers and things like that.
Maybe they just could see me, right? You guys get up close. Hey, Virgil, I think I got one of your tapes in here somewhere. He's going to start looking around, and he goes, yeah. And he starts flipping switches, and these like megaphone loudspeakers up on the top of the mech start playing. Just at these like massive decibel levels. And he'll initiate barricade mode. So like these huge pistons come out of the side of his mech, and he kind of hunkers down. And if it's like a flat enough space, his mech just kind of like levels in, and big spikes come out of these pistons that have come down and just sort of anchor him into place. Good hunting. So he's eager to make himself absolutely known once the other two mechs can kind of sneak off using the sensor jammer.
See you on the side, buddy. And he'll like hit this button that has like a ninja mask on it, and the scanner or the jammer will like, and like people who are scanning will see like the 3 blips turn to like 10 and then like into 1 again and like constantly shifting until eventually they just settle in on 1, which will look like it's just Anvil.
All right, let's go hunting. And basically, I'd like to, if we can, for the two of us, me and Cataphract Niner, to try to find this Titan mech that's patrolling around, especially if he starts to get drawn towards the noise, and try to get a sneak jump in on him.
So you can tell from your scans before that mech is like staying around the area of the headquarters and the ship, even though it's presumably like aware of you guys, and now obviously can only ping Anvil Rain. It's doesn't seem to be moving forward to engage, though you would safely assume that it is prepared. And you can like move forward up towards the outskirts of the junkyard labyrinth, and if you wanted to jump over it to the far location of the unidentified mech, could do so.
Yeah, mechanically we're hidden, so they don't know that we're here. So we're stealth, basically, you know.
Yeah, so the reaction of the unidentified mech is unchanged. Like after you guys would have gone off its sensors, it's still staying in the same position.
Yeah, I can imagine like the pilot in that mech, he's just like tapping his screen that has like the various blips until finally it settles, and he's like, eh.
Yeah, he sends a transmission to the only person that he can like target to receive, and that would be you, Anvil Rain. There'd be like a incoming transmission. Receive, Captain, or whatever your custom one is. Dominion pig, you come here at your own peril. You're gonna die. I'm gonna throw your chassis into the. This is Nomad Alpha. Mark me well.
I think you're going to have a hard time throwing me anywhere, big boy, but you're welcome to try. And then he like kicks on the klaxons again. You hear the air raid sirens and heavy guitars kind of echoing out now.
You guys would hear this like frequency being broadcast over to Rain, though like do not receive it yourselves to so as not to like tip him off while you're cloaked, moving up to the outskirts. And despite the words exchanged, Rain, his location does not differ.
So Kelvin's like jamming out to the music, and he's like, yeah, I can see how Cataphractic it does this. Yeah, okay. And he takes the new sniper scope and kind of like, you know, he reaches out this giant robot hand and it clicks one of the adjusters on the side and then clicks another one, and they're like echoing, like snapping of glass. And as he kind of like leans back in the chair, just gets comfortable, literally like puts his feet up on the console ahead of him because he doesn't have to move. He's good where he's at. He's going to run a sensor scan just to make sure no one else is around, and then kind of target in on this comm signal.
Okay, I'll get a systems check from you, please.
I got a 5. That is a success.
You can see where your, like, I imagine your companions are hidden, but not from you. You guys have done this before, so you can track them as well. And you can see that the 2 human life forms that you can detect in the scrapyard are like saying static as well, like staying within the walls of the scrap labyrinth beyond. The majority of life forms beyond that, at far and distant distance, are congregating on the ship, presumably to flee. And the other life form detecting would be the sender of that transmission you received from the mech, the unidentified mech, designating themselves as Nomad Alpha.
And just to clarify, this area is not under the make sure I say this right. This area is not under the
Neo Dominion.
Yeah, so there's
no collateral
no
damage limitations.
Collateral damage, yeah.
Let's have a look at the mission brief. Proceed to scrapyard and neutralize Terran insurgents, not procedure. It doesn't mention anything about collateral damage here.
Okay, cool. Just double check.
Yeah, but it seems weird to you. Like, you can account for the life form in the mech and the life forms in the headquarters and the life forms in the ship. Their movements are consistent with human response and make sense. The 2 in the scrapyard would disconcert you after that systems read. Like, you know that they would have known that there were 3 of you, and now even if there's only 1 that they can read, they're probably aware that 3 mechs are approaching. Why aren't those 2 fleeing? They would itch at you like a scab.
Yeah. he's got this piece of paper, literally like a clipboard, where he had written down what they were supposed to do, and he's like double checking, just making sure, following like a line, and then he just underlined something. Okay. And he's going to load in the high explosive rounds, which takes him an action, and activate his energy shield. And then just one last time over the radio, just for fun, he's going to be like, no bad, you might want to consider surrendering. I hear artillery's inbound. And then he'll like cut comms. So he's just like, well, this seems weird, but I'm going to rain down hell because that's what I do. And it would pass to the other two.
Cataphract is just waiting just to be told what he has to do.
All right, so I think might be the easiest. Once we actually engage, I'm guessing we'll be able to come up on their systems again. And that's, I guess, both an in and out of character statement. Is that true? Like once we do something that's not hiding, then the sensors unjam?
Yep, it's basically like we're stealthed. If we're ideally we're currently hidden stealth, and when we make an attack or like reveal ourselves, we're no longer stealth. But I think we get a bonus for attacking from stealth.
If we can just get within reasonable distance, I can jump in, arc grenade him before he knows what's hit him. He's gone. You come in, wipe him out. Unless you have any other ideas, concerns.
He like cracks his neck and like fires a snot rocket out of one nostril that splats down on one of the keyboards. Let's go.
Fair enough. So once we're within far range, then what I would like to do, Nico, is move just like a touch away from Cataphract, just so like my position, my like last known position, won't be like right on top of his. But just before I leave the sensor jammer range, I'll fire up another round of jump jets. Although that one did hit my reactor die. So I imagine there's kind of like a rattle, some spurts as the mech's power overloads using the jump jets. As far as I know, it'll still like the ability will still work, but my reactor dies a D6 now instead of a D8. As the jump jets use too much energy, I've overused them, and the mech is like not handling it well. But then once I like land next to this thing, I'll just like put up an arm. It'll be like and like a missile like fire, like a small missile like land. It won't hit the mech; it'll land like right next to it before there's like a kind of a crackle as it launches an EMP. I'm gonna try to arc grenade him. Which, unless there's anything that might cause that to not work as normal, I did succeed on my power roll for that. So it'll deal 3 electrical damage, and it'll also prevent him from taking an action for a round.
Oh, brutal. So he had a ready to action to let forth the barrage at the first foe to come into range of his sensors. Which is whoever like gets out of the labyrinth first. So you subvert that and land out of the ash canopy down next to him, and as he like turns to fire the barrage, like the system's just powered down with the grenade, and like the barrel winds up, but then nothing is even emitted as his mech is just stunned there a moment. And inside of Nomad Alpha, Lasse Vandor like rages indignation at the tactics of Neo-Dominion mercenaries, desperately trying, like smashing at consoles to power things back up. This is where we'll roll initiative. So you moved up to the edge of the labyrinth and then jump jetted in right far, which would put you next to the ship and the headquarters. 0.
Could I have moved up while I was stealth?
Yeah, certainly.
I just would like move closer, if that's possible.
To what do you want to? As in, do you want to be close to this mech?
The one before that, near. Yeah, like
Okay,
in the
cool.
labyrinth, I think it's fine. I don't want to reveal myself necessarily. I just wanted to like not be miles away by the time that we unstealth.
Yeah, with the MP going off, I'll just let out a shout. Mechs down, get him! And go into initiative, and that'll be a pass for me.
Yeah, so this arc grenade lands, Nomad Zero pivots to engage you. It goes off, dismantling his systems for now. Beyond, you can see a thin trail of like the last remnants of the insurgents here, fleeing by like small vehicles towards the ship beyond, an interplanetary ship that's like powering up, consistent with the like of those you've seen before for like civilian use. This has obviously been like stolen or commandeered by the Terran resistance. Your systems would tell that it's powering up its defense systems in retaliation of your proximity. And beyond in the labyrinth, your companion is, unbeknownst to the foe so far, encroaching on your position. But it's your turn to act first, Viking Zero.
Yeah, I'll immediately take advantage of the stunned chassis of Nomad Alpha. Once again, detaching the sword blade from the mech, bringing it up, and just try to like bash it across the right shoulder, trying to disable as much as I can before the systems come back up inside. I'm going to use both actions this round to just attack. The first attack is going to be an 18, which will miss, but the second will be a 4, which will hit. And that's going to be, again, for a 7 on my damage die. As the sword, just the first bash is not able. I imagine there's like just enough function in the mech to like move it the couple feet that it needs to, but the second bash will slam down into it, cutting through wires and metal.
Yeah, the mech can't even reel as your blade goes in because all of its systems are down, so it just like hangs there limply as you like drive the metal in, screeching through its armor and like bursting vital components within before twisting it and withdrawing to the screech of plas steel. Inside Nomad Alpha rails, still his systems are down.
I will begin running as quickly as I can towards that set. He's the only thing we can see, right? Like there are like some people fleeing, but like there's no other threats visible.
The actual ship.
Unfortunately, not at this
there
moment.
too.
Yeah, you could see now from where you are, Lloyd. Closer to you is the two mechs brawling, and then beyond them is the ship powering up to lift off, while some remnants trail from the headquarters towards that ship.
Okay, so I will begin sprinting, and it's going to look like I'm going to like collide with Nomad Alpha, but instead I'm going to like try and skid past him and fire my arc grenade at the gunship. So I have to make a power, I think. It's definite success. It's a 4 on the die, so that's well under my power. So it takes a D4, I think, of damage.
Yep.
Okay, so it takes 4 damage, and then it and one other target adjacent to it has no action next turn. If there's any of those, if any of the people on the initiative list are adjacent to it.
Okay, I don't imagine that Jeff and Nomad Alpha are adjacent to it, but I could be wrong technically by the rules. But effectively, Nomad Alpha's covering the retreat of these people to the ship, so he's closer to the junkyard labyrinth than than it, even though I guess he's in an undeterminable proximity to it.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
if the refugee is running towards it, I think from a mech-sized grenade, I just vaporized.
Yeah.
So the thin stream of refugees that you're watching to the headbanging music inside your cockpit anvil range just disappear from the readouts as your companion veers close to them, and the gunship will take their 4 damage, which damages like a portion of the hull to the outside, but doesn't destroy the thing.
Yeah, no problem. I will then again like point my finger backwards towards Nomad Alpha and take a shot. And I have to roll my reactor die first. Actually, I don't have to roll my reactor die because I'm what do you call it? Brawler. So I can move an attack, and then I can use my second action to attack. That's a 2 on the die. Certainly a hit. Let me just see. I'm going to spend... Oh, it's actually a crit for me because I'm a...
is there a crit chart for this game?
I don't think there's a crit. Oh, maybe there is.
There has to be for like mad, gigantic fights. And let's have a look. Critical.
Okay, so I score a critical success on a roll of 1 or 2. I'm going to spend 2 armor points to roll an additional damage die, so that'll be 3 damage die.
Ooh.
It says its damage is doubled.
So the damage is doubled rather than the dice?
The dice rolled is doubled.
Okay, yeah. Oh, so then... So if I mean, this is a question of like pedantry, but if I spend the 2 armor points to do an extra die of damage and then I crit, do I roll 4 dice? Or I guess it's much more.
I'll throw to Jeff.
I don't have that specific part of the rules.
I would vote for roll your initial damage and double it, and then roll a bonus die.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Roll 20 away next.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that's us. Oh my god. So it's 19 damage.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
A 7, a 7, and a 5. That is significant.
It takes his mech in the back, and great like panels like fall away, revealing like patchwork robotics beneath. What serves as like the base like of its hip, where like the top half kind of fits into, is like badly compromised, and like sparks are shooting out the back. Flames have erupted, and all kinds of sensors go off, unheard by you guys inside Vandor's cockpit. A great gout of explosion like washes over you in front on the other side, Viking Zero, as you can like see holes through your foe through to where Cataphract stands between this mech you brawl and the powering up ship beyond the headquarters. It severely compromises his systems and nearly outright destroys Nomad Alpha.
So my reactor die goes down a dice because I failed that roll. And as he like sees the shot, he'll like move the finger up to his imaginary face. Actually, he'll use that little tube he's been using to blow smoke out, to blow some smoke out in that direction, like a cowboy.
Nice. So out of the walls of the labyrinth, at the exit of it, peel forth 2 of these patchwork scrapyard mechs. What were like Civ mechs used for like in this junkyard have been repurposed by the Terran insurgents and hackers here for more nefarious use. One sports like a giant scooper on its right appendage, and it rushes forward upon a central iron ball. And the larger one behind it, who liberates itself and powers up from analog to digital now to online, is much larger and has this great like chain of plasteel that ends in a crooked piece of scrap that's been like forged together into a dense mass, and it begins to whirl atop it like a slowly increasing helicopter. Vroom, vroom, as it lumbers forward on 2 different sized legs on either side, rushing up to support the commander here. And so at their nearest foe for both of them would be U-Zero, as these 2 things peel themselves off the walls of the labyrinth, and the patchwork mechs rush towards the aid of Nomad Alpha. They're both going to swing with their melee. The first one with his scoop. Oh, sorry. You roll. I don't know even why I rolled. You roll a mobility check for this one. And the other's going to follow up with its swinging flail for another mobility check.
So is this me, Lord?
No, this is at 0. Yeah, both at 0 because you're not. Yeah, you're too far away for them. But and yeah, you didn't spot these
like-
on systems check or visually because they're just part of the trash in the walls.
Yeah. Even with 2 mobility checks, that's an 8 and a 2, which is 2 successes.
So imagine you like see them coming and someone can pull your blade out of like the near ruined carcass of Nomad Alpha to bring around to parry first the dip and then like to roll free as like the ball swings overhead but doesn't collect with anything, which causes the scrapper mech to nearly like tangle over, not compensating for like the broad strike that doesn't hit, surprising both of the terrorists within, or freedom fighters, whichever side you take. After their turn, it goes to the ship. The ship's been damaged, though not irreparably, but seeing Nomad Alpha nearly overcome, the pilots are terrified, and so we're going to begin to close up the cargo bays and actually begin their ascent from close.
Because of the arc grenade.
So they try to, but then it begins to like crackle and fizz, and the pilots inside that ship screaming at each other, trying to find a fix. Though for now it will not come. So the gunship, it's not a gunship. Sorry, I don't know why I call it. It's just a ship that has guns.
Dropship.
It's not technically a gunship. Yeah, similar to your own, though not as advanced or large. This one can only hold 2, whereas your own can hold 3 mechs. And I think that's it for everyone. If they can't do anything, yeah, it goes. Oh, sorry, no, it goes to Anvil Rain. So you've watched all this play out on your senses to mad music before you decide how to best take course of your action, sir.
Yeah. So there's a final whirring noise as the last of the stabilizers brace this huge mech, this Titan, and there's a as the air kind of vents out the sides and the hydraulics stabilize. He has finally calibrated this scope that he acquired. And can you remind me from where he has, because he hasn't moved, how far away is the dropship?
I did put that up before. Just let me go up.
Is it
distant is the ship, far is the HQ and mech, near is the junkyard and labyrinth, which yeah.
As the rules would read, I get disadvantage for distant with a ranged weapon, but I get advantage for the sniper ability. So does that cancel out?
Jeff?
I'm assuming it'd be just like 5e, where if you have both, they cancel and you just roll a normal die.
Do they, if you have 2 levels of negative and 1 level of positive, is it still just the same as 5e in that it would just cancel out?
I don't think that it goes into that level of detail in it, but my guess would be that it just works like 5e does.
Let's go with that for simplicity's sake.
So do I have double disadvantage?
Nope.
Okay, just double checking. So
I think you have nothing, right? It's a straight shot for you if you want to go distant.
From what I thought. So he's kind of bunkered down in this this barricade mode. Normally it's a defensive action, but for him it's just sort of kind of evening him out so that he gets this perfect shot. He's loaded this absurdly large orange magazine down on top of this weapon, slightly askew at a 45-degree angle, like some sort of like mythical machine gun from a bygone era. And he racks the bolt, and it's another deafening clack just before he triangulates the position of the dropship and sends out a shot. So first attack, that is a 15 out of 16, barely.
It rails into the side of the ship and causes a massive explosion, like the remnants of which shower over the top of Cataphract.
And I kind of imagine that these explosive rounds, as they fly through the air, once they hit, they kind of like just slam in some sort of like depleted uranium core, and then also detonate like a half second later to kind of just carnage the wounds they've already created. So that is 2d6 plus 2 total damage. Not quite that of the epic attack that happened just a few minutes ago, but that will be 11 damage.
11 to the ship. So its systems are critical. It's very badly damaged, half destroyed. I'm going to, even though I have no idea about science, I'm going to say that it's incapable now of interplanetary flight, though still will try to like ascend from here and escape somewhere else on world. But yeah, to your system readout, it's like badly damaged. Some of the hull is exposed, etc.
To Anvil, that's good enough. If he was piloting that ship, he wouldn't dare try and activate the thrusters for fear of explosions and internal combustion. He's going to fire a second time, and I think that makes him roll his reactor. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah, if you do the same twice.
Yeah. Okay, my reactor's all right. Thank goodness. The second shot's going to go towards whatever the highest accumulation of human signatures is. Is that the HQ?
No, that got vaporized by by Cataphract Niner. The closest like group of life forms is the three around Viking 0. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the two scrappers.
The one that was like swinging some sort of flail. Was that right?
Yeah, a larger one with a flail and a smaller one with like a dipper bucket for an appendage, like trying to gouge out.
That flail looks like it needs to go decommission now. And that would be... yeah, so here's the second attack. Oh, I missed that one. So that's a 17. So some sort of carnage probably as it wrecks some building nearby.
Yeah, probably the HQ. It's like all the people were vaporized, and now the building itself is just pulverized. There's like incoming rail just drives to the side of it, exploding it.
And over the comms, now that they're not ghosted anymore, they're not trying to sneak in. He's like, fuck, I meant to do that.
So it goes back to the top now. Viking 0. You can see the systems of Nomad Alpha coming back online now as its custom Xiralium laser cannons begin to power up and glow with neon danger right in front of you, like giving a red glow to you inside your cockpit as your systems like show this to be coming true. You can see the destruction beyond being caused by your companions and hear the mechs beyond, the scrappers, trying for an opportunistic strike like jackals as they like slowly surround you.
Yeah, he's like beaten off two of these like scrap junkers that have tried to come in and attack him and deflected their blows. And he almost goes to like turn to like try to take one of them out, but then he sees the whir to life come back to Nomad Alpha. And his mech will lock in back towards that, knowing that it's probably even still the more dangerous despite everything we've done. I'm just gonna try to like literally just jam my sword right through whatever important mech components are still remaining on that thing. And hopefully try to take him out. And I have already rolled, and I rolled a 3 on my power, which is very well under. And I rolled max damage, so 8 damage as I smash into this guy with my sword.
That's everything. That's more than he needs to be destroyed. I'm just checking to see if he has any special thing. That's it. Yeah, even with his armor too is sundered through, and you can describe the downfall of Nomad Alpha.
Yeah, so all these like lights come back up. It begins to whir to life, and the cannons begin to fire. And then there's just like this sickening like crunch as the sword just gets like driven straight through the fractured chest plate of this mech that Cataphract had already burst a hole into, and just like twists it sickeningly, just wrenching at everything important in there before just like slicing it off through, letting pieces of mech go flying until the mech is disabled. And then I still get a second action as well. I'm actually going to turn away from the scavengers. I'm going to use another attack, failing the reactor die, which will downgrade now to a D4. Got to be careful. But in my other hand from the sword, there's going to be like some whirring of components as spaces open up and like the hands and wrist. And there's my own machine gun fire, much less heroic than Nomad Alpha's would have been if only it got to fire it. But just like a burst will rip out. I'm actually aiming at the ship with this one, trying to ensure that that gets taken down and stopped. Which is going to be a 9, which will succeed for 5 damage. As I just rip machine gun fire into the ship as it teeters from the arc grenade.
Yeah, it leaves massive holes blistering up the side of the thing, like glowing, flaming wounds. The ship is mechanically still going on 1 hit point, but I'm just going to say like there's wild explosions coming from all about it, and a few people actually spill from like emergency opening cargo doors, like either on fire or like swirling around with like that blue like gaseous flame. The thing is near completely destroyed, and like Cameron alluded to earlier, like I don't think a pilot would fly an airborne vehicle this heavily destroyed. So you'd get a ping 0 of like submission or surrender from the pilots of the transport ship beyond as you like gun up the side of the thing.
Yeah, I send that out in the comm. Ship's disabled. They're offering surrender. Don't destroy it. It's worth more intact. He'll say, remembering their salvage rights. Won't go anywhere anyways.
What about them? He'll say, looking at the scrap mech.
And like the flail comes zooming over Zero's head.
Okay. I will turn to engage them in that case. Okay, so I will move and make an attack because that's one of the things I can do. It's a 7 on the die, which is certainly a hit, and I will spend my other 2 armor points. I think we had 5 to start with. I'm actually not sure. I'll just roll the attack first. It's a 6, so 2 hits. Do you know if it's a standard amount of armor points you start with, or?
So, do you have light or?
Depends on your gear. Yeah.
On my gear from my chassis.
Your starting equipment.
Yeah, starting equipment under chassis.
I should say.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I have a shield and light armor, which is 3 armor points and 2, so I have 5 total.
Yeah, me too. Okay, excellent. So then I will spend 2 more armor points, leaving me with 1 to roll an extra die of damage. 14 to the guy with the digger, if he's still up.
Cool. So the smaller of the 2.
Yeah, not the guy with
the digger.
The little guy, yeah.
Yeah, is this a melee weapon?
Yeah, it's the blade at the right hand.
Yeah, it just like carves into the side of him, and you like rip it up, pulling free great cables and cords of like robotic entrail, and like flames erupt to either side of what would serve as this like rib cage. To give like a humanoid analogy, the thing nearly like doubles over from like the kinetic destruction too of like your mech, superior size and hydraulics, cutting deeply into this thing, nearly completely disabling it with one strike.
Yeah, so that's both of my actions done.
The one that you just struck, I think, will act, and then the unharmed one after it. I think because of the structural damage that it's taken, it's not going to use its appendage, because I feel like the pivot needed would be impaired by like the amount of damage you did to its midsection. So it's going to use its hack. The Terran terrorist inside switches to other methods to take you down. It's going to emit a burst to all close or near targets to roll their reactor die, which will include his companion, who succeeds.
Yeah, I imagine that cataphract, like all these alarms start going off, like beep, 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 beep. He's like, what the fuck? What's happening? And he just like pulls this like lever that like a bunch of steam shoots at the back of the mech, and it seems to be okay.
Nice. I imagine it was kind of like a Space Invaders console that you've got to like destroy all the incoming like hack viruses before they get to like make contact to your system for the old school. But yeah, you can like bring up like firewalls to resist the hack from the badly damaged scrapper. How'd you go, Viking Zero?
Yeah, thank the lords. I rolled a 2 on my D4, which will prevent me from overheating. I was already like right at the limit. Imagine there's already kind of like red flashing warning lights going, like warning, overheat, like temperatures at this level. And then there's this burst, and it like the bars like move up even further, but it's like just under the acceptable level before things actually start melting. And like looks of panic will go across my face, but it will not cross the threshold.
After that, his flail sporting companion in terror will unleash a brutal onslaught. This will be against you, Zero, who was originally engaged with. He won't move and provoke. So you just roll a mobility, please.
Yes, sir. Oh, that's a 7. That'll pass.
So like swings the wrecking ball on a plas steel chain, but you roll free of it and it just collides into a nearby part of the headquarters foundations and sends great blocks shattering into the ash-laden sky. And that's all for the pitiful enemies that I've arrayed against you. Anvil Rain, you're next.
With the surrender notice, I'm assuming he got that as well.
Yeah, I imagine like Zero rerouted it through to all of you guys, or you have like another snippet of his feed, what he gets when he wants. So yeah, you're aware of it as that happened.
All right. Anvil's going to make another sensor check just to make sure, systems-wise, that there isn't anything sneaking up on them. Scanning the horizon as he's up on the peak there. 9 out of... What is my system? 15. 9 out of 15. Good.
Yeah, systems show all good. Everything's been accounted for, whether visually by your companions or by systems readouts before you, where you stand at the other side of the battlefield or squat at the other side of the battlefield. It's just the 2 remaining life forms inside the mecha harassing your companions, and those accounted for inside the surrendered jump ship, transport ship.
I think that Anvil's going to hold off on firing again. He thinks that the other 2 probably have it pretty much in hand, and he's already gotten to fire his big guns a few times, so he's pretty satisfied. Don't know.
Just on that, your systems would read out that one of those scrapper mechs is badly damaged, nearly destroyed, though the other is unharmed.
Yeah, I don't think you could take a shot. I have the high explosive rounds chambered, and I just feel like thematically it would be super dangerous to shoot those the way he did the shot with Viking earlier, where he had him like dodge out of the way, just because it is another D6 damage and everything like that. So he's gonna just hold kind of the ridge here and survey and overwatch, kind of calling down. You guys got that yet? Come on. Kind of like chiding them and egging them on to finish the job. He'll watch the dropship, though. If the engines kick on again or something, he'll take another shot.
Sure. Like a held action or something. So that takes it to Viking Zero's turn.
Yeah, Viking Zero will see the flail get sent across, just barely managing to avoid it. And like bring his mech up to bring back down with the sword of it at it to try to take this thing out. But just as he does so, those flashing, blinking alarm lights overheating. There's like a short spike in the system, and his mech like moves more sluggishly than it should, as it's like teetering on the edge of melting down, which will make the sword much easier to dodge than normal, and he will miss. But I'll look over to Cataphract to say, "Finish them off. We need to get this done." And I'm going to use my commander ability to have a use action where I will donate my action to Cataphract for this turn, which he will be able to make without any reactor penalties or anything.
Ooh. I will do so.
Nice. That's Nana's turn now.
So then I can make that attack without a reactor die, make my actual attack, and then make an attack with a reactor die.
Yeah, so you'll make an attack on my turn that counts as my action.
Yeah, I see.
So it won't actually factor into any of your own limitations. So then you'll have your own full turn after that.
I got an 18, so I'm going to miss that one. And then on my turn, I will swing for a 9, which will hit, and then I will roll my reactor die and succeed, and roll again, and a 6. It's 2 hits.
Do you have to move, Lloyd, to be able to make the 2 attacks?
No, the bonus thing is that I can move and attack. And
I see. Cool.
So I have to roll my reactor, because you can always attack twice. You just have to roll your reactor die.
Reactor.
Yep.
Cool.
So I get 5 damage on it.
All up, that's enough to kill the one that you nearly gutted completely before, the lesser of the 2 scrapper, the scavenger mechs.
Yeah.
So you just like cut the thing in half, and its 2 legs walk in different directions, splitting apart in a shower of sparks, and then it falls down in a wrenching heap.
Okay, perfect. Yep, that's me.
The last guy realizes he's screwed, and so does a hack. So we'll make both of you guys roll your reactor dies, and we'll flee towards the labyrinth. Yeah, so he like sets out this virus and like a cloud, invisible cloud, and then turns and flees. He's a hardcore communist terrorist, so he doesn't pray to a god. When he like turns to flee, he just like hopes that his comrades can carry on the fight after his sacrifice. How did you go, Jeff?
So that is. Oh, I've actually been doing this backwards on accident. I thought like if you rolled the highest number on your die, it was your reactor thing went
roll
down,
one,
but
right?
it's actually the other way around. Yeah, it's 1 or 2. So I've kind of gone off the rails this whole time because I wouldn't have had earlier reactors, but I'll ignore it. But that's a success for now. I guess in this roll it would be a 3, which would be over the 1 and 2 on my D4.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so in that case, both of you guys can make opportunity attacks if you have melee weapons handy against this guy as he flees. His tactics proving useless against your well-maintained systems.
Yeah, I want those. I want that salvage metal, so I will make the attack. We can gut his system and take it, which will be a 9, which will be a success on a power roll for 5 damage to try to take him down, cutting at the legs to try to stop mobility.
And Lloyd?
Yeah, I got 14, which is just under, so success for 6 damage.
Okay, 11. So he would run now into the labyrinth. You'd lose visual sight of him, but he's not cloaked, so you can still track him on your scanners as he moves from close to near of you guys. And Cameron, your systems would come online pinging him as he comes into far range of your systems. You don't have visual sight of him through the ash and chaos and flame, though you can like spot him and track him upon your overlay as he begins to like go back in towards the junk labyrinth.
Okay. If available and win, Anvil will for sure take that shot.
Sure. I'm going to give you a negative die, a penalty die, a penalty die, because he actually has like walls of labyrinth cover from your shell, which I reckon pulp-wise will be able to puncture through it and into him, but it is going to be a consideration and influence the outcome, the odds.
Yeah, the first roll was a 18, so that'd be a fail anyways.
Just blasts a bunch of like hover vehicles that have been like stacked up and welded and crushed together. Just sends them like shrapnel into the air to like pierce other parts of robot skeletons. Though he's not harmed or his mech.
He's gonna blame it on the new scope. This thing's there's a crack in it or something.
Yeah, it sparks. Captain, scope seems to be in perfect, and you can just like switch your mech AI off.
Shut up, you.
Viking Zero, you're up.
Yeah, I'll let out a comm. I'll go stop that guy from getting anywhere. Make sure things stay locked down over here, and I'll go like running after him, using a move to close the distance a little bit before unleashing a hail of machine gun fire at him.
Yeah, if you use your movement to charge in after him, you'll have clean sight at him.
Perfect.
So like no cover or anything like that. Oh, cool.
All right, and that's 8 on my attack die, which will hit. So it's going to be 4 damage as there's a machine gun coming from the left arm that'll hail down at this guy.
Was that 8 damage you're up? Sorry, sir.
4.
4 damage. Okay. So that like catches him in the back and up to the top right shoulder of his, what serves as the shoulder of his mech, causing it to like stumble into a nearby wall and knocking a few like HOV vehicles off to like smash down into the ground, adding to the din of dust and ash. He looks badly damaged, and your own systems like show that several components of the mech seem to be disabled, though the flail still is unharmed and could potentially be used, despite him being badly diminished. And there's no hail to surrender from this scrapper like there was from the ship.
Okay, the ship, I mean, is in a position where it can't take off, right? It's like, even if I let...
Pretty much.
Okay, pretty much it's not definite, so I'm probably going to have to do something. Because I can catch this guy. I guess I'll ask, Commander, What am I supposed to do here? I can catch him.
You can get a good takedown. I think that's easier. The ship's not going anywhere.
All right, he'll start
Can't
sprinting.
look forward to getting out.
So I'll move, and then I'll move again with my reactor die, and when I move, I can attack.
Nice. Yep.
So I should be able to get into melee with him if I move twice. Okay, so 6 on the reactor die is a success. And it's a 1 on the die.
FM Dizzle.
Oh, it's not great damage, though. It's 8 all up.
Okay, so that's enough to cause his destruction. Inside the labyrinth, when a scrapper is destroyed, the explosion causes the environmental hazard of collapse of the walls. So since you're both melee to him, you both have to make mobility checks or suffer 2d6 damage as the walls on either side begin to like collapse down and send up a spume of rubble.
Fuck, that's a nat 1 on my die. These die.
I got a 20, which I was like, oh.
Oh, that's a critical fail. That's double damage dice.
No, fuck, I'm dead.
So you'll take 20.
Yeah, I'm dead.
Disabled, yeah, everything's like woo, woo, and then this massive like an old mech appendage just like falls down, smashes in the front of the cockpit, sends like translucent plasteel showering over you, and lets all like those vestiges of cigar smoke to wisp out and into like the near toxic atmosphere. You're able to like pull this like shiny knob on the end of like a bone styled gear stick so that your like emergency suit like drops down from like some sparking tubes overhead to like affix over to your helmet. But as you like whir and pull and pedal on the other levers, the mech doesn't seem to respond and just groans in like metal indignation as like another bit of weight like heaves and then settles, like crushing a foot part of it.
I guess you would hear like ha ha as he like hits with it, and then there's just like a. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll roll on that if that's okay with you, Lloyd. Disabled mech.
Yeah, it's on page 9.
Cool. Yeah, so while disabled, you cannot take actions until repaired. You automatically fail all tests, blah, blah, blah. You must roll on the disabled mecha table. Oh, so you have to.
What is
Cool.
it?
It's basically like lingering injury for your mech.
D8, please, Lord.
Yeah, okay. An 8. Oh, Jesus, is that good or bad?
Oh,
It's bad. It's bad, man. You managed to hit that lever in time, just as like a hover semi that was like right at the top of one of these welded condensed walls, like pulls free from the vibrations of like a last seismic tremor and careens down. So your mech ejects you in emergency, shooting you out at a diagonal over like the rubble and flame, while the cockpit and head of your mech is crushed like a second later. You survive, but your mech is destroyed.
Bro! Oh my god. That's a bummer. Yeah, so he like I guess gets ejected out and like lands a long distance away, and just like falls to his knees, like shaking his head, devastated.
You had at least a half pack of smokes in there still. Those are gone.
On my tapes.
Oh, you can't get those again. Only the
Yeah,
shitty digital copies.
Yeah.
And your baubles, all your various like skulls and 80 bikers, flames, like paraphernalia, all of like the porno posters on the wall, everything just gone.
Oh yeah, he's devastated.
So you'd get like a carnival view over the junkyard and headquarters and all the ruin you've smote and the badly damaged transport ship and everything, until like a shining aluminum parachute is thung up at the top of you as you begin to like slowly drift down towards where Zero waits on point at nav point Delta, and you can see now on your on the arc tool on your wrist, Cataphract and Viking on the console in your mech. There's no other bogies or otherwise unaccounted for threats here, and I assume that Anvil Rain is like making his way towards where this last confounding explosion was.
Yeah, absolutely. He's moved down the hill, not seeing any vital targets. He disengaged the barricade mode and has been moseying his way down, kind of idly, assuming that the job was completely done and no other threats remained. At the explosion, though, he'll kind of kick it into high gear and move towards that area.
Viking Zero will like grimace at the sight of the mech being crushed, and seeing like the emergency eject go off, and know that there's nothing left of it to speak of, or else it wouldn't have done that. And just like frown and shake his head in a silent despair, commiserating with his with his friend who is now mechless. It'll do his best to try to at least retrieve Virgil from whatever wreckage. If there's space, I'm sure there's space in the mech. Try to like get another person in if he can, or at least find some sort of safe place that we can get him.
Yeah, in the commander mech, there's like a special thing for like a second or co, and you can like scoop him up and bring him to. He's probably still like swearing indignation, and I imagine that Marin doesn't usually let people smoke durries inside his cockpit, but he'll probably let this one slide.
I think it's like you're trying to like pull someone back from a fight, and he's like trying to claw his way towards the mech, but it's obviously pointless against like a 30-foot machine. But he's like, no.
Yeah, and his cockpit is like the exact like stark opposite of Virgil's. It's like spotlessly clean, totally quiet, exactly organized. But even still, if Virgil went to spoke, despite everything, there'd probably be that initial instinct of like but then he'll just like drop his hand and just kind of like shrug, in like a silent apology and acceptance.
Once Anvil's in range to like visually see the explosion and the wreckage, hey, what the fuck happened?
Nah, little bugger died. Blew up, collapse of the wall. Came down hard.
She's gone.
The piece is still in there. Maybe we can fix her up. Kind of like, even though fix her up is still like such a radical overstatement of the situation, and he'll like catch that and like shake to himself again, grimacing.
He's like thinking of like the truck nuts hanging off the back of his mech and like the dice off the mirror, which doesn't like look at anything. There is nothing in the back, and all these like stupid things that he had. And he's like, how am I going to replace all those things?
Hey, Virgil, it'll be all right, man. We'll get you something. Shit, fuck. And he just kind of powers his mech up close, and then just kind of surveys the wreckage. And there's this like imperceivable kind of like shrug, and he just can't believe it happened. Like he assumed they were pretty much invincible from how well they've done.
Yeah, like a perfect mission apart from this like accident, which like makes it somehow dirtier.
There'll be time to grieve later, he'll say, as if a person had died, which I guess to us that would like almost be true. But for now, he'll like radio out back to like the home base. Got ships disabled, people on it, mechs down. Basically trying to let people know that this site is, at least for the time being, more or less stabilized, and then he'll go about trying to find where this Xiralium and all that might be stowed.
Roger that, Viking Zero. Received. Profit inbound to Nav Epsilon. We'll be there ready for extraction. Sit rep. How things look down there?
We lost a mech, I'll say dejectedly. Other than that, no casualties, no damage.
It takes a while for her to come off mute to transmission this time. Like the intonation and like sound, like the decibel of her voice is like, you can tell that Prophet's just been swearing maniacally in the cockpit of Pursuit before coming back a second later. Confirmed. Scour the place for any salvage and get those deposits destroyed. I'll be waiting for you. Unless you hear from me, all things clear for LZ.
Roger. We'll get those crystals dealt with.
Who was it?
Virgil.
Don't let him kill anyone, Zero. Profit out.
Yeah, I'll just kind of laugh and look over at Virgil, knowing that the only person that Virgil could kill is him, and he's going to hope that that's not going to happen.
Got like a maniacal look at his eye and like a cigar between his teeth. And he just like gives a brief look, but then just looks back at the ruin of his mech.
I didn't see it up close, but were any of the other guys not that bad off? Maybe no one gave up, huh?
People in the ship that surrendered, but all the mechs got taken down. Should be well enough to salvage.
Yeah, you might be able
Anyway.
to find something together, right?
Gotta find and get rid of those crystals before Prophet gets here.
Well, if we don't have any more bogeys on the radar, I could make it rain, boss. And he kind of like winks, even though he knows that no one can see it.
We get paid by the salvage. It's a large part of our intake. I don't want you blowing too much up.
Ah,
that money.
shit. Yeah. You got it.
Yeah. So we'll set about trying to look using our knowledge and what we can look around for as best we can to try to find those Xiralium deposits and see if we can't do away with them.
Consistent with the brief from Prophet before you dropped, you can find the Xiralium crystal deposits that have sprouted up beneath or from cracked and revealed vents beyond the outskirts of Nion E42. They're these large orange, red, and yellow swirling crystalline formations of varying sizes and quite inconsistent and radical from one another, and seem to grow at these strange angles what you'd expect them to break off and fall over their own arc, but by their construct, by how they are made up, they do not. They refract and react badly to laser and heat charges, which is why they have adverse manifestations given these strange conditions here on Dorix IV. And so the destruction of them by fire or laser could prove hazardous in that endeavor. And you would have been given this information beforehand. So things for instance, Cataphract Niner's melee weapons would have been great against getting rid of the Xiralium deposits without any hazard to your mechs.
Rub it in.
But yeah, a barrage of laser or fire would be hazardous for you guys.
Yeah, I do still have a sword of my own. So given that, I'll start taking to it.
Yeah, like someone in the jungle with a machete.
Yeah. Yeah. Hacking through whatever I can.
It is a great visual of machete through the jungle.
Yeah, except it's wielded by a mech, and instead of a jungle, it's crystals that form into boulder-sized shrapnel that gets showered around.
Yeah.
And hisses and warps and transforms when it hits the lava vents.
I'm just thinking of the big StarCraft crystals that they mine.
Yep,
machine going through.
Is the intent? I know you guys discussed earlier about trying to get some Xiralium deposits to smuggle. Are you going to destroy all of them, Zero, or just what you can't carry?
I actually will try to stow away some amount of it in whatever storage that I can muster, hoping to pawn it off to give Virgil a nice deposit on either fixing or buying a mech. Yeah. So I will actually stow some away for that express purpose, but smash the rest.
Hey, Nico. In this time, can Anvil make his way over to the dropship?
Prophet, or the one that surrendered to you guys?
The
your
surrender
dropship. Oh yeah, sure. The transport ship. Yeah, you can go up to it. By now, like the crew have evacuated out of like the flaming ship, and like standing in this like no man's land under the survey of your two mechs, just in that obvious stance of surrender in their suits, even with their arms raised up in the shape of a Y.
Yeah. So as he makes his way over, he's going to kind of corral all these military personnel or civilians, whatever they are, these insurgents. He cares not. Into kind of like a little herd, kind of just outside of this ship, and he's going to place down this massive like sofa-sized ammo container that he had the explosive rounds in, and over the loudspeakers he's going to call out, "Attention, all of those disembarking the dropship! Please place all your valuables and possessions in this container. This is non-negotiable. You will be destroyed if you refuse this order."
Arms in the air, all of these people like come forward and hand over digicards, identification screens, weapons, anything like that, non-essentials, and like stand back, their arms raised after they've hurled these minuscule things into your ammo container.
And he again, like kind of, he's just got this giant, stupidly large artillery rifle, like trained on them, and he waits for them to kind of like single file, like drop off all their stuff. And once in a while, he'll kind of prod, like, "Hey, the backpack," if he sees something specific that nobody puts in. And these things will be returned to you after they are sifted through and sorted. We just need to make sure that there are no weapons or hazardous items available. Thank you for your cooperation. And then he'll continue to monitor them as they deposit whatever it is that's processed.
Yeah, the punks and hippies and commie thugs just like look between each other fearfully after they've just like given everything over, and stand in the spotlights of like a still cannon steaming mech with fire and horror all about.
And then over the private comms channel, he'll radio over to Viking Zero, hopefully getting both of them in the cockpit there. "These kind folk, they're going to donate to our cause."
How kind.
Commies love sharing.
Yeah, right, they do. It'll be all right. It'll be all right, Virgil. We'll get you something.
He puts out the cigar like roughly on one of the data pads or keypads in your cockpit, and then pulls another one from a pocket and lights it.
Maybe Viking needs a new pod, and you can have this one. You've already soiled it.
And so after you've like smashed these crystals or like taken what you can for your own cut, like that you can carry, you can leave the flaming ruins of the labyrinth and the and Nion E42, the scrapyard plant here, and push on towards the last nav point, being Epsilon. And you can see even from a distance the dropship already here with like a halo of dust and ash swirling around her. Spotlights begin to seek for you, and the cargo bays begin to open down like drawbridges that thunk into the rocky earth and send up clouds of the black silt. Carrying upon your persons, there are containers full equaling 250 credits worth of Xiralium deposits. One recovered Xiralium laser from the corpse of Nomad Alpha, which is a Titan, the chassis of that which you have salvaged also. From the scrapper mech that hacked at Cataphract Niner, you recover a sensor jammer and the scoop, like the gutting scoop, which is a heavy two-handed weapon that I've placed there in the group chat for you guys. This can represent your 75% of salvage rights, with everything else being placed over to profit already. So between you three, there is the badly damaged chassis of the Titan mech that was Nomad Alpha, the Xiralium laser, and those things are the aforementioned, including the pay. Since there was no collateral damage, profit will have the extra bonus share downloaded to you guys from like profit's main holding, and try and soften the blow as she like welcomes you all back on board with the pilfered cargo and once that's all kind of checked, we'll begin liftoff from the nav epsilon. Once you're already in flight, ascending up from the Earth's surface, is when she'll descend from some like iron ladders to where you're probably smashing something in a room.
Yeah, definitely. He can't find the booze quick enough, and so he's just like pulling things off shelves and throwing things around.
I'm sorry, Zevon, she says. Good job ducking to like so that something smashes into the wall nearby.
Best Mecha ever had.
The crew have pitched in a little for your share. Nomad Alpha, she's yours. We'll have hubs do what repairs we can here on ship, and it's not going to look pretty, though. When did that ever matter to you?
I'll make her pretty. Thank you, Prophet.
She'll gesture with her left hand, which is cybernetic, and produce a pad which she keys with her fleshy good hand, and shows you proof of worth as your funds are all completely totaled and added to your profile or to your ND Merc profile card. When we get back to Dorix III, the first drinks are on me. And she'll hand over a bottle of this flammable shit that fed both you and Cataphract Nina. Shared fuel. This one's on us, and she'll go back to the ladder to reconvene each in turn with each of you guys as the dropship ascends through the outer strata and thickest of the black clouds that encompass Dorix IV and back out into orbit. And is there any last words or thoughts?
Kelvin wants to pat Virgil on the shoulder. We're like, hey man, cheer up, because like a phoenix, you will rise from the ash-strewn cockpit of your previous mech into something glorious and new, I promise.
It gives you this look of always this, and he sees the 3 new watches that you're wearing that you stole, and gives a nod. Those are nice.
Yeah. One for each of you, and he'll pass out the other 2. It's a hard mech life,
Yeah. Kirk will over to Virgil and give him his watch share from Anvil Rain. And then would find a time to pull him aside. Look, we need you back on your feet, so I'm gonna give you my share of this mission. As long as you put it towards the mech, get her in good shape. I want you back on the team. Just kind of give a nod.
Thanks, Captain. I owe you one.
You've done enough in the fields. We'll call it even.
Yeah, plus I gave you that jump track that one time, so if anything, you owe me. The tender moment is not hyper masculine enough for Virgil, and so he's uncomfortable. We'll immediately start making jokes and drinking.
Yeah. So while Anvil Rain, sorry, you go.
Yeah, Kirk would go right back into oh well, I've done more with those jump jets than you ever did, and I'll just well, just immediately turn it back into that.
Yeah, so while Anvil Rain sorts a new playlist, and Zero and Nina continue their ribaldry, and Prophet heads pursuit off for further missions, we'll leave the session there and see what can be done next time there's something that needs doing for the Dominion. Thanks for playing, guys, and that's where this session will end.
Thanks, Lloyd.